Okay, so that should be us live. Just waiting on the usual sound check, and then we'll fire on. So, talking about wildcard stuff. Just a recap of the wildcard games to start the broadcast for anybody who hasn't caught up with them. Pittsburgh went to Baltimore and won 30-24. Knicks Raiders lost 9-17 at the Ralph. Niall
Unlucky, Nick.
Niall beats Tampa Bay 22-10 at home. And in the PvP clash, well, we all know what happened in the PvP clash. We just don't know
If you
quite
haven't
how
watched
it
it,
happened.
go watch it. It is amazing. It's a very enjoyable game. If you're James Earls, if you're Stips.
If you're Stoops, I would spend all off season watching it, trying to work out how the hell I lost it.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
again, he knows how he lost it. He played kickoff return on an onside kick. And funny enough, didn't recover it. Like,
well, but that's the thing. I'm going to talk at length about this game. This is obviously this will dominate most of the pod today. Again, if you don't know why, watch the game. It was just, bleh. So it wasn't just the onside kick. There was so much more to it than that. If it had just been the onside kick, you'd have fell
it
for
was
him.
it was a horrendous game. I
Yeah.
think it's fair to say.
So I want to start this week actually with the 3-word game. I have 3-word games for all teams. This even teams on their bye. There's literally 3 words to sum up your bye week if you had a bye in the first one. So I'll start with the bye teams first. So Adam's Saints had a bye. They're the NFC 2 seed. 3-word game: avenge or revenge. Now, he plays Niall, and I wrote that before Niall beat the Bucks because you just assumed Niall was a handy favourite. So, does Adam get revenge on Niall for the lag game, or will Niall avenge his reputation in this? I pray that the game has 0 lag, because the group seems split 50-50, at least from my
Yeah, being
interpretation
honest,
of it.
we all want it to be a really good game.
No, but 50% of people think that Adam's going to win against Niall, and 50% think that Niall's going to beat Adam. Or sorry, more rather, 50% think that it wasn't lagged last year. Solely. Like that Bears team, I mean, you can argue for or against. It was in the Super Bowl last year. That's a fact. You can't argue that.
John will.
Yeah, true. He'd be wrong, but he can argue. James Cameron's Broncos with the AFC 1 seed because they finished above the Texans. That's what makes them the 1 seed, the best team in the conference. Their 3-word game is best possible outcome. Again, I did this earlier in the week. This was whenever the Steelers won. So James knew early on he wasn't getting Nick, so he won't play a player team until the conference weekend, which almost worked for him last year. Zach,
Well, it did. It got over the conference game.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get him all the way.
Zach is the NFC 1 seed, and his 3-word game is will be favoured. Again, did the bye week ones before the wildcard games, so it doesn't matter if he was getting the Bucks or James Earls or Stoops. It turns out it's James Earls. Zach would be favoured against any, and maybe even a select team of the 3 of them, like a Super 11, he would probably be favoured against. And John's Texans are the AFC 2 seed. Their 3-word game is 3 games remaining. John will play 3 more games this year. Divisional round, conference round, Super Bowl. Facts.
We would like to hope so.
Yeah.
Well, John would like to hope so.
So we got the 3. We spent a little bit longer in the 3-word games for people who actually played games. Next, Raiders, as I said, came up short in Buffalo. 3-word game. And Daniel, we can be as scathing or as polite as you like. I actually want to go on a mix for a change. Scored 0 touchdowns. Nick has scored as many touchdowns in the playoffs as he did last year. That's a concern. But I'm going to bring it around to a positive spin. Every time he kicked a field goal, I was okay with him kicking said field goal because it's a 1-score game. The game finished with him heaving, not even an improbable Hail Mary, it was like 30 yards maybe, I think, if memory serves. Just heaving a long, deep, like seam ball into the end zone. Or if he catches it he arguably goes on to win the game because Buffalo weren't up to too much of anything. Um, Nick went into a playoff game on the road. Buffalo were the favourites, and he was still in the game with 2 seconds to go. But then to spin it back on a negative spin, he's got to get a touchdown at some point in the game. You can't win a game without scoring a touchdown.
Not in the playoffs, no.
Like the worst one that comes to mind, is it not John beat the Eagles 7-6? Like you've got to score a touchdown.
Yeah, John was drunk though.
The only other times that I can remember teams not scoring a touchdown, I'm not convinced Mike scored a touchdown against the Packers years ago. Niall in last year's Super Bowl. But teams must be like 0-2 or 0-3 all time in the playoffs without scoring a touchdown. Like you don't win the game. You know, you got to figure it out. I mean, yeah, yeah. Not only that, John, but it should have been 9-7 only for a kick. Um, Nick is the first team we're talking about that has been eliminated and doesn't have any more games this year, so I want to do a little bit of a season review for the two eliminated teams as well. Just going, nothing. This is going to sound mental. You didn't score any touchdowns, but nothing really needs fixed. You've got a little bit of your offense to tweak. It's got an identity. It's Jacobs and the tight ends, and you've got two very viable wide receiver threats in the perimeter. But this is going to sound really weird given my criticism of the other 7 teams in this league. I think Nick needs a slot receiver.
Yeah,
because he's got
it
Hunter
would
Renfro
certainly.
and he's got Jamar Chase, but neither of them are as effective even as Cole Beasley, who's not particularly effective over the course of 16 games. Slot receiver.
No, I'm not impressed with Cole Beasley. He's been all right,
No,
but
I think he's been hot for the last 2 weeks, but he's been left out to dry for the first 13. But there's so many teams here. I'm looking at the Bears, Cardinals, Giants early on in the year, certainly. Teams just surviving off tight ends and slot receivers, like inside stuff that's really easily covered by players. Nick has built a team that is really good in a PvP game and does test you on the outside and does commit to a run game, but he's not good enough with the easy stuff to beat a CPU team consistently.
yeah,
He's on a Nick lost 4 of his final 5 games. Like 2 of those were to Stoops and James Cameron, but
yeah,
the last 2 defeats were 21-7 to the Chargers and 19-7 to the Bills. That's 1 touchdown in 2 weeks.
yeah. It's not great, is it?
Hmm
Let's be honest.
He has a CPU. Like he's beaten shit tons of CPU teams this year, but he's got a bit of a CPU blind spot when it comes to just getting the easy shit done. He's very much the antithesis of James Earl's Cowboys, who sometimes come in punch drunk to a PvP game, but he could probably steamroll a CPU team with one hand.
Yeah,
There, John summed it up pretty concisely there. Nick's targets next year have to be get a PvP win at some point and get a playoff win against anybody, and he's flying.
yeah. I think if Nick wins a PvP game next year and a playoff game, he'll be, even if he only gets to the divisional, I think he'd be delighted, and so he should be. That'd be a really good season for him. But he took a big step this year, but I think he knows himself. He wants to take. He doesn't want that to be it. He wants to go further.
Yeah, I don't think
You
he's had a
know.
bad season. The guy was he 3-13 last year?
Oh, this year has definitely been a massive, massive jump,
Right?
and I think Nick's. And I see why he does it. Nick's very harsh on himself, but again, no one likes losing, so he is harsh on himself. But I think Nick needs to realize that last year was not good. Really wasn't. Last year was terrible. This year was not terrible in any way, and he should be seeing that as a big, big plus. And I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say, "Oh, just be happy with what you had." He wants more, of course he does, but it'll take time to get there. This year was definitely a huge step up, and he should be very, very pleased with himself.
Completely, wholeheartedly
I
agree.
was certainly very, very impressed with the Raiders at a lot of times this year, and think that, yeah, he's not where he wants to be, but he will get there. You know, he's all the tools to get there. He just needs to realize that this year was not his peak, He still
Yeah,
has places to go, but don't beat yourself up over not being there right now.
well said. Niall beat the Buccaneers 22-10. My three-word game. Oh, Excel's playing up. My three-word game for him is it's PvP time. That's it. There's only player unless you truly believe that Pittsburgh or Buffalo are going to run the table. It's just player teams waiting for you if you're an NFC team from here on out.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that Niall's toughest game is the divisional round, Adam. Because if he beats Adam, they're gonna hold me to this. I would make him, and you're gonna call me mad. I'm gonna make him a favorite over whoever he gets in the conference game.
You would make Niall favourite over Zach?
Hmm.
Mm.
Just the way that their game played out, and Zach is going to play effectively. Zach's playing a CPU team this week. Zach is playing a team that suffers from lag, who he has already warmed up against twice, and beaten rather comprehensively twice. Niall is going to kick and scream and fight and claw for his life against the team that everybody can see that has the record matchups over him previously.
Yeah.
It depends. If Zach blows out James Earls comprehensively a third time, and Niall lags his way past Adam, maybe I'd make Zach a favourite there. But I don't know. I just feel like Niall's got a point to prove.
He definitely does.
Because he went to the bowl last year, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's not really going to the bowl." So fuck it, go to the bowl again. Slap the rest of your conference about and go to the bowl.
True. Nobody makes back-to-back bowls out of fluke. Like, it just doesn't happen. No one, in real life in Madden, no one flukes their way to back-to-back bowls. You can't do it.
No, you literally can't.
So if he makes it one this year,
it's hard enough to fluke your way to back-to-back title games. When you look at,
it's hard enough to fluke your way to a bowl. Like, I mean, never mind back-to-back.
Yeah.
So if Niall wins one, or if Niall gets the bowl this year, surely he's got to start looking at people like, yo, where am I fucking respect at?
John makes
Why
a good
am I
point that
in?
Zach's definitely going to be out for my blood now. Just to explain why I think the 15-1 team would possibly be not favourites against the 13-3 team. Niall's a bastard to play. Zach, his major issue is the biggest issue that he has, and
Yeah, I don't think you saying that Niall would be favourite is a dig in any way at Zach.
Niall is not going to blow out Zach. Niall is going to win an agonising 21-17 game over Zach. That's a theory.
I don't think Niall's going to blow out anybody, but I don't think that's what Niall's there to do.
Right. No,
I don't think Niall's trying to blow out anybody.
You talked about this in the wildcard round. As soon as you seen the Dallas Arizona game, you were like, if Zach scores like 2 touchdowns, he will beat James Earls or Stoops, whoever he's getting. Yeah. Now, Niall rather is really hard to score on. Really hard to score on. Because Adam's not going to blow him out either. I have Adam as a favourite over Niall by 9.5 points. That's the biggest margin of any divisional game.
Niall's really annoying to play.
If you look at the predictions I made in the wildcard weekend, they're all but within 4 or 5 of that. So it could be Adam by 4 would realistically fit that bill. If Zach puts up like 30 or 40 points in James Earls and scores first against Niall and puts Niall in a 2-score hole, for clarity for the group, and so Zach doesn't hate me, Zach wins that game by about 17 points. I don't think he will do that, though. That's my prediction, that Niall is going to make the game really grainy, and he just needs... if he doesn't throw the pick 6... Zach beat him because of a pick 6 and a missed PAT. Those things are unlikely to occur again. The Giants are a far better team than the Bears and have had a better season and are being coached better.
The Giants
but it is not a stretch to say that...
Well...
It is not a stretch to say that Niall could theoretically be the favourite in the title game over Zach, depending on how the divisional games play
Oh,
out.
I don't know about that, but
I haven't given the odds. If Zach blows out James Earls and Adam beats Niall, then we're not even talking about it.
I just think you're being. I think you're being a bit down the Giants. I think Zach's probably going to be the favourite going to the title game unless he's playing Adam.
When we get to the NFC title game and it's Bears at Giants, I love how nobody thinks that Adam would be pissed with this. By the way, when it's when it's Bears at Giants and it's a snow game going in, then yeah, I'm taking Barkley over the absolute lack of run game that Chicago has. But theoretically, I'm just prepping people so they don't think that I'm on fucking LSD or anything. If I pick the Bears as the favourites over the Giants, I have my reasons. If the Giants wipe Dallas out and Chicago falls ass first into the title game, then no, the Giants are the favourites. But I'm just
Well, I
prepping
think
you. Just prepping you now.
Adam's going to be making sure that there is no way to fall into the title game. You're going to have to play him at his best to get
Well,
past him.
Adam's going to do me a massive solid and beat Niall, so I don't have to worry about making Niall a favourite. But just telling you, it's on there. It's still on Twitch. Go and watch Bears Giants if you don't believe me. It's there in colour. So the other games, there's two more three-word games to go, and they're both the same game. And my God, you could have had anything. Stoops, my three-word game for you lost 23-24 to Dallas. Not just
What the
onside.
fuck?
No, it's not just the onside kick.
I know. The whole performance was utterly baffling from both teams.
He had a
I can't
9-point
remember
lead.
what I put in the group chat. It was something like trash beat steaming bag of shite, I think was what I put in the group chat.
Yeah, I mean,
But it was-
that's not three words, but it's pretty concise. It was a 9-point deficit. A 9-point deficit.
That doesn't mean anything. It was a 17-point deficit against James Cameron.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Two scores. So it wasn't just a fluky onside kick that changed the game. James Earls called whatever the fuck he wanted and waltzed 80 yards up the field and scored a touchdown in about 10 seconds. And then
Yeah,
recovered an
that's the
onside
drive that
kick.
annoyed me
And
more than
then-
the onside kick. It shouldn't have got the onside kick.
Yeah, it looked like he put the controller down. He gave James all the time in the world.
It was, in the nicest way possible, the most Stoops performance ever because it was just utterly baffling.
You know the Kermit meme where he's just holding his hole open? That's what the defense was like for a solid 3 minutes.
For the last 3 minutes of the game, yes, Stoops is defense. Because even then, James recovered the onside kick and everybody was like, right, it's over. James was at like his own 45 with lag. He wasn't nearly in field goal range. Then James goes deep in, ran to the line, and threw the easiest lofted seam to Chris Herndon.
Yeah.
Just
The whole thing was just... LaVisca Chenault could have done what he want.
yeah. Yeah, Chenault had it far too easy the whole game. And it just...
He had
Yeah,
over
come on,
100
man.
over 100 yards before the fourth quarter, I think.
And he's not exactly... Not fucking Amari Cooper, like... But yeah, there's some baffling decisions in the game for both teams. And both teams could have put it away at different points.
I
Just
just...
thought, you know what? Let's not.
The three-word game for Stoops was almost the Arizona Cardinals. And then the Atlanta Cardinals instead. Like, that's two double-digit blowing leads. I don't have sports metrics to tell me
Against player teams.
what percentage of chance Stoops had to win the James Cameron game where he's up 17-3? And... Or maybe more than that. And then he's up 9 points on a laggy
he was
James
up-
Earls
he
with
was
2
up,
minutes to go.
I think by 17 points
Fuck me.
at
They're-
one point.
They're
I
two
think.
horrendous through falls of
Especially when
emotion.
if it was Niall doing it, it wouldn't be as bad. But it's your first player win. You're not. If it was Niall or John or Adam doing it, you're getting a player loss.
Yeah.
But when you're 0 and something, it's worse. Because you're not trying to get a player win. You're trying to get your only player win.
What, for
And
Stoops?
suddenly,
Was Stoops,
he-
you mean playoff win? Because Stoops has got a bunch of player wins.
a player playoff win. I forgot Stoops had a CPU one. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about regular season ones. I'm talking just playoffs. But yeah, you're constantly flirting with getting that first win, and then when you don't, it's like, oh, it's okay, you'll get one next year, and then next year comes and you still don't, and suddenly you've been getting one next year for 3, 4, 5 years, and you know people don't mind waiting, but how long you gonna wait until you actually get it?
Then, so in
I'm
terms
not
of
not
what he
not trying to
needs
be
to
critical
do,
of him, but
oh yeah, like what does he need to do in the off season? Because he's another one like Nick that just doesn't have any games left to play. So Stoops, you're kind of an off season wizard, so I don't really want to advise too much. You sort of got that nailed. I think you need to. We talked about this earlier on the year, and again, I mean, I can't get any more controversial than telling everybody that Zach's not a favorite for the title game. So I'll this can't be seen as more controversial. You need to figure out what you're doing with Kyler Murray. Change your offense to work to suit him, or tell him to get out in the nicest possible way.
when's his contract up?
I think it's next year's the contract year.
Ooh,
So people are like, "Oh, let him play in the contract year and see." No, but it's not about him getting better. This is, I mean, literally, if I'm going to compare him to a quarterback, let's say Lamar Jackson. If Stoops said Lamar Jackson, if you're not going to run with him, and you're not going to run a lot of
yeah.
spread with him, then it
Again,
doesn't. He
it's a
can't
bit
get
like
any
it's a
better.
bit like Matt Stafford. If you're running a play action dink and dunk scheme with Matt Stafford, it's like, why? Why not
Br-
go and get a short arm guy for cheaper?
Brett Favre is better
Like
than
Derek.
Kyler Murray. If you put Brett Favre in Cliff Kingsbury's system, they're 2-14. If you put Brett Favre now in Stoops' system, they're probably 10-6. Like, it doesn't work. It's a clash of styles. It's not like Niall.
Stoops does love a big yay.
Niall's a great example here.
Let's be
Niall
honest.
was in his first year at Chicago. Didn't really know the players of the roster or like what the best fit with the team was, and Mitch Trubisky was a bang average to piss poor quarterback. As time has gone on, Niall has built the roster in his image, and Trubisky has gotten better because Niall and Trubisky are not a complete anti-fit for each other. It can progress. Murray is not going to get better with Stoops, and Stoops is not going to be any better with Murray. They are what they are. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not good for each other. Like
Yeah.
unless Stoops is going to start playing to Murray's strengths, which I'm not totally advocating.
No,
Go
again,
and
I
get
don't think
someone that
Stoops'
suits
style is the
Stoops.
problem.
Yeah,
Get someone who fits your style. Don't change your style to fit the guy you have. Especially if Trubisky really didn't suit Niall, if Trubisky was just an awful fit for Niall, you kind of stick with it because he's on a big contract. Kyler's in a contract here. He's going to
yeah,
cost you literally nothing to get rid of. So
exactly.
just do it.
And teams will give you picks for
Pull the
him,
trigger.
but I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if you want to keep him fine. I don't know what you would gain by like it's in his contract year. Let's let him play for his contract. Why? If he plays really well, then you're doing what I said, and you've changed your scheme to fit Kyler Murray, and you're doing more Murray things, or just get rid of him. Like he's
No,
not
I'm
going
not
to
saying it's
get
a bad thing.
better in your
It's not
system.
necessarily a bad thing to keep him. If you keep him and you change your scheme, but you change your scheme in a way that you think will benefit you overall, but don't scrap a scheme you think will work for a scheme that won't work. Just a QB.
Yeah,
That's a very quick way to get fired.
but there's a very
Like,
particular type of quarterback that Stoops should be after. Like he's not going to go and get Tua or Lamar Jackson or even some. Okay, John's not going to part with Deshaun Watson, but if John was to leave, he's not going to go and get that or Baker Mayfield. He's not going to get a scrambling multi-action do-it-all quarterback because that hasn't worked. You know, when you run inside zone split, halfback draw, and just throw a slant to Kirk or the tight end, you do not want the world's fastest athlete doing that because that doesn't suit his strengths. You're better.
yeah.
I mean, you gave up on Andy Isabella deep shots. The amount of times be watching a game and Daniel will go, "Oh, he had a touchdown there in the circle." If he just throws the nine, go and get. If you want to do that, go and get yourself an absolute rifle. You did that at the start of the year, throwing nines to Kendrick Bourne and Christian Kirk. Like Stoops did it, he beat Adam doing it, where he just randomly yeets a big nine that you're not expecting and beats your coverage. That's not Murray's strength, and that's why you've come away from it, because Murray struggles to do it on a consistent basis. You were almost picked, you weren't, but you were very almost picked in your first play against James Earls, because he left Kendrick Bourne uncovered in the slot, so you threw a nine to him. But that's not Murray's strength, so the ball was late and way behind. And it's tipped by Stearns, I think. So you need to work out what you want to do on offense, and then go and assemble the pieces. Niall is a great and terrible example of this. Actually, I'm going to use him because he doesn't know exactly what he wants to do on offense, but he's gone and got the right pieces for it, if that makes sense. Like I always criticize him for having a ton of slot receivers, but he's got some of the best slot receiver numbers in the league. It's not gonna it doesn't contribute to wins at the top level, which is why he's had to expand outside, and he's moved Ridley and Higgins and Rigor about. I'm really curious to see this game against the Saints, but at least he knows what he wants. If I asked, like, when you watch the Arizona Dallas game, the first drive that James has is like a 14 play, 5.5 minute drive that leads to a touchdown.
Yeah.
By his own admission, he practiced ahead of that game. Stipps' first play from scrimmage was called. He audibled one route because of something James had done and threw a nine that should have been picked. One guy knew what he wanted to do in that game, and the other guy didn't until very late on in it. And that's why the last 3 word game is James Earls' 3 word game. Honestly deserved it. I mean, he trailed for most of the game and needed the onside kick, and you're all going to be like, oh, but it was Stipps' game to lose. A bit like what Nick did against the Bills. James Earls was never out of that game, which is why I reacted so profusely.
And no offense, say if it's your game to lose and you lose it, then
when
you deserve to
someone
win.
when someone in the group said game really early on, I was like,
Who was that?
no idea. But you couldn't call time on it because James Earls was doing all the right things, and the game was very. I think there was 38 seconds. Stoops had a 2-score lead on him for. But up to that point, it was always a 1 score. And yes, James had thrown a really inopportune pick. I thought after the 2 minute warning in the first half, James Earls was terrible for about a minute and 30, just of running to the line, calling silly timeouts, and throwing a big daft pick that ended up giving Stoops a halftime lead. But outside of that, James did all the right things. And he was playing with lag. If you take the lag out of it, even he's playing really well, even in spite of it, or if you disregard it. He did all the right things. He got the right people open. They constantly drove down the field. I wanted to shoot them both in the head because neither of them gave the ball to a running back maybe more than twice. If you're not going to hand the ball off, you're playing Saquon Barkley next week. You're going to have to figure out some way to run the ball. I don't care how. But I honestly, I will fight anybody in a pit that says that James Earls didn't deserve to win that or didn't play better than Stoops, because he straight up did. The player of the week is a rather short order. So there's no quarterback, no defensive lineman, and no DB because there was only so many teams, and I don't want to double teams up. I don't want to double people up teams wise. So running back 1 was James Conner of the Steelers. Running back 2 was Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. Wide receiver 1 was Laviska Shenault. Wide receiver 2 was Mike Evans of the Bucks. The tight end for the 3rd week in a row was Mark Andrews of the Cardinals. Like, that's who you build your offense around. Yeah, I'm afraid. You've also mastered the ability of getting Andrews to play in the slot, like as a spread tight end, so it's not always the same corner routes.
Nice.
Yeah, you can do a lot with him.
I quite like that.
He treats him as a receiver. And the flex position was Kareem Hunt of the Bills, who just battered Nick on the ground. And the linebacker is the only defensive player picked from the wildcard weekend. I mean, you're looking at him. Roquan Smith of the Bears. Thought he was outstanding. I think he had like one big play. It was like one pick or something. I'm like, I hope that's not why people think I picked him. He, throughout the game, had a number of pass deflections. He was used really well. And even more impressively, when Niall wasn't playing him, he always was in the right place at the right time. Like, he was a key reason that they won by the margin they did against the Bucks. He's also going to be important next week as well. Obviously, linebackers in the user game. So, unless you've got anything else to talk about wildcard weekend, Daniel, we'll go to divisional round.
Yeah.
So my margins, I'm 4 for 4 in the wildcard round of predicting winners. This time around, I went for two home teams and two road teams last week. I'm going for this is what destroys
Yeah.
me. I'm going with all four home teams. That never happens. Do you know how rare it is in CFM? Like it's nearly impossible in the NFL. Do you know how rare it is in CFM for the one seeds and the two seeds to meet in the title game?
Well, no offense, but James and John are beating CPU teams. Zach's beating James Earls. Adam, tu- tune in, kid. It's you.
So I've
Win the
got
game.
I've got Denver as 7.5 point favorites over Pittsburgh. Houston is 5.5 point favorites over Buffalo. The Giants is 6.5 point favorites over Dallas, and the Saints is 9.5 point favorites over Chicago. Simple. I'll get into them in a wee bit of depth, but simple enough reasons. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that James Cameron can stick 40 plus on any CPU team in any given week. He's in their rhythm. He's got a formula. It's unwatchable tripe, but he's playing in title weekend. The Bills put in a really spirited performance against Nick. Uh, Unlike real life, Josh Allen, they don't make mistakes. The Bills, they'll play boring football, but they'll not turn it over to you as much as John's going to try and force them to turn it over. Um, Plus, John would love to win a game by 3 or 4 points. He's won more games in the last 2 years by a solitary point than anybody else. Um, I mean, I literally preached the opposite of this Giants Dallas game during the year. Whenever I said that the Buccaneers, Brady's Bucks, were going to beat Breeze Saints, despite the fact that Breeze Saints knocked them off twice in the regular season, because postseason's different. Um, yeah, postseason's different in the sense that James Earls got his only ever playoff win last week after an onside kick. I don't see any reason why the Giants wouldn't win again. I think Dallas, despite going out at the divisional round for the third year in a row, have actually won a playoff game. Have had a great season. I don't think Dallas can be disappointed at all if they go out. But you're not. Well, I can debate the Adam Zach Niall thing. I'm not having a conversation where James Earls beats Zach. I don't. I don't see it. Like, if he moved to Belfast and had no lag,
I think he'd have a shot.
no, I was going to just lower the margin of victory.
No,
No.
I really do think he would have a shot. Being brutally honest, I think he has a chance to beat Zach
hmm
if he's living in Belfast, and that's just my opinion. Like,
And then I'm going Adam as a 9.5 point favorite over Niall. That seems a bit of a stretch. I really am in love with Adam's offense at the minute, and I think it probably trumps Niall's defense. Again, the reason you're like everybody's like, but the Giants' offense is better, so surely they would trump the Bears. Adam and Niall are playing each other now, I think, for the sixth time.
they
It's
do play a lot.
Yeah, they do play a lot, and it's not like they're playing as different teams as well. They've played as the Bears and Saints a bunch. I don't, do you know, actually, truth be told, top of my head, I don't think they ever played as the Saints and Texans. I really don't. Maybe preseason, but I have a lot more to go off of on a Bears Saints meeting. This is actually the third time they've met in the postseason. Plus, they basically play each other every other. I mean, as long as they're divisional winners, they play each other every year, every other year in the regular season. This is the third postseason meeting.
Yeah,
The Saints have knocked them out of the divisional round twice, and the Bears have knocked them out of the title game once. I think overall, Adams like 5-1 or 6-1 against them all time. But the one thing going for Niall is that his one win in the series was in the biggest, grandest stage that the two could meet. Um, I think a lot of the game comes down to Jaden Hasselwood. Niall, self-professed maniac that he is going to take Michael Thomas away as if Adam's going to throw to him. And Adam now, for the first time in ages, has that's what Adam didn't have last year. Another piece. Traquan Smith and the corpse of Cody Latimer wasn't enough to beat the Bears in the title game. Jaden Hasselwood is an elite level player who is garnering a lot of offensive rookie of the year votes, and Adam will happily throw him the ball 17 times in this game, and that's not we're not even touching on Kamara. Um, it's not like I know the margin of victory I have is bigger than the Dallas New York game, but there are conceivable
Yeah.
ways that Niall wins this game. Like I can't see James Earls winning, but there are conceivable ways that that Chicago rather wins the game. They've got to win the turnover battle. They've got to go to somebody on third down that isn't Trey Burton. David Montgomery has to turn up and not just be used to run the clock. He has to turn up and run on early downs in the first quarter and dominate the clock. It's conceivable. I think the Chicago is probably the only road team in the divisional round that I'm giving any sort of credence to, despite them having the biggest margin. Because I like Adam as the best home team because he's seen the Bears so much.
Yeah.
Do you want real controversy? If
Go for it.
Nile is the road team with the best chance of winning, Buffalo is the second best.
Think so?
Yeah, I do think so. I don't think they're gonna do it, but I think they have the second best chance.
I don't see how Buffalo win.
You don't?
No.
Well, I've already knocked off one player.
It's not the same, I don't think, to be honest.
So you and I
I'm
are
not overly
still
worried about.
you and I are still going with our Super Bowl predictions. You've gone Houston 31, New Orleans 17, and I went.
Yeah.
No, was that me? That might well have been me.
No, I think you went with Adam.
Okay, and then New Orleans 24, Houston 21.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Houston and New Orleans, the two seeds, are both of our mutual picks for the Super Bowl teams. So we'll see if they can survive through the next week. In terms of the power rankings, for anybody that didn't listen last week, I've changed the way the power rankings operate. In the sense that it's just the teams that are alive. So there was instead of 10 teams, there was 12 last week, and this week there are 8 teams that'll be alive. So again, they haven't really changed up and down. We've just eliminated teams. So at the moment, I have Pittsburgh in the 8th seed, Buffalo in the 7th, Dallas are 6th, Chicago are 5th, Denver are 4th, the Giants are 3rd, the Saints are 2nd, and Houston's top. And that's the wildcard power rankings. Any other predictions then for the divisional games? I think we're getting some. We both of the AFC games are threatening to play this afternoon. They probably will as well because they're CPU games. But both, like I touched on earlier, all the NFC teams are all player teams, which is going to lead to some tasty matchups. But I don't know when we'll get those for the first time, as it were. Tomorrow or Friday, possibly for the Bears Saints. I haven't heard from Cowboys Giants. Not be tonight anyway. I've got that offensive call.
Yes, hopefully we get Cowboys Giants soonish, and I think we're all quite excited for Bears Saints.
Bears Saints is definitely the pick of the round. I've seen Dallas Giants too many times, and I know what's happening there. Like I say, it's the storyline for me. We're on the road to WrestleMania, as it were. We've had the Royal Rumble. We know who's in where. This is just the filler match before we get. The fans are baying for blood. They want James Cameron John. That's what we want. We want Rock and Austin. We want Rock and Austin, and they're going to meet in the AFC title game. This is just the build up ones. You build a wee bit of momentum for them. You give them their CPU in to build them. Whereas I posted up the graphic earlier in the year because it's still very much the same way. Dallas are the spare leg in the NFC right now, and the Giants, Bears, and Saints, however you see them, or Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit.
Who gets to be Benoit?
Well, the graphic earlier in the year depicted it, and I'm sticking to it that the Bears are Chris Benoit because Adam's got to be Triple H, right? Adam's the franchise. Adam is the guy. Adam is the who gained the most in your absence, Austin. Oh, we're watching so much Attitude Era stuff at the minute. It is class.
Great.
Which makes Zach Shawn Michaels, and I'm totally okay with that. He's the showstopper. He's the guy that, oh, well, he's not the favourite. Oh my god, he's coming to drop 30 points. What the hell? I've said this in previous podcasts. It would take a lot for the Saints to get 30 points in a PvP game, and I don't even know if it's physically possible for the Bears to score 30 points. So the Giants have all the offense, and they are ready to go. Nile is Chris Benoit. It's not always the prettiest. Toothless aggression. And for me, all he's got to do is beat Adam. If he beats Adam, who says he can't beat Zach? And we're not worried about them beating John because John's the favourite over the 31 other teams in the league.
Yeah, as he probably should be.
He just is, yeah.
Defending Super Bowl winner hasn't looked any worse this year than last year, so there's no reason to believe he won't go back.
But
the only thing that can really change from last year, I suppose, is obviously Zach's now a bit of contender, whereas last year was playoffs, and Adam says it was lag. Guess we're gonna find out.
We are going to find out. The lag thing ends if we get a what do you call it? If we get a game with no lag, I never want to hear about the lag game again, for or against either of them. I'm sick of hearing it. I hate when lag decides games or seasons. In James Ross's case, don't like lag. It exists. I wish we could do without it. I want a lag-free game.
Yes, it would be perfect if we could just all meet up and play our games offline against each other, but that's obviously not viable.
At all right now, but yes.
Ever, but especially not at the minute. But hopefully we can get a largely lag-free game. And yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, I'm excited.
Like, it doesn't decide everything, but if we do get a lag-free game, you can have the New Orleans Saints being like, see, we're still the ipso facto best team in this conference. Or you can get the Bears being like, fluke, what fluke? We're on to New York. And they'll be gonna... I can't stomach it. If the Bears go to the Giants, I'll make the Bears the favourites because they were in the bowl last year. They've been to the playoffs like 6 times. They're the ones with the experience.
The Giants look like a different animal this year, though.
We haven't seen... You know Zach's never played a playoff game? We haven't seen playoff Giants. That's why he's got the Shawn Michaels moniker. I'm expecting him to kind of blow the fucking doors off and be like, I have arrived.
Right, I'm going to hop off.
I'm going to. We've pretty much covered everything we want in this little podcast that tied us over. What I want to do next week's one, or we'll say next week's, the next episode, we'll talk about the divisional round, we'll preview the title games, I'll talk a little bit about the awards, which should be a little bit clearer then as to when they're going to be and what the dealio is there. And Dan, I need you to preview thingy in the next podcast. Conference game media week.
Woo! I'm excited.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Anybody else tripping for
your fucking
James Cameron and James Cameron and
John and the CPU?
John and the CPU in divisional round, or sorry, title game weekend would be. Looking at the teams, I'd be really tempted, obviously availability, to have on Nick, Stoops, and James Earl / Zach, Niall / Adam. Like, maybe 2 of the 4 eliminated coaches on the divisional round podcast. You have to be eliminated to qualify for it, though. I'm not bringing on active coaches. That's what Media Week's for.
I don't know who I'm going to have on mine this week. Just everyone's
yeah.
on. I think. Oh no, Stoops won one.
Is it not? As it says, it's not Stoops.
And he has been eliminated. So
God, what will you talk about?
Onside kicks and the best way to do them.
What are they, and how do we...
And why you should always come out and kick or turn right. But yes, right, awesome.
Yeah. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Stay tuned to the chat. I'm sure people will announce when they're playing their games, and hopefully, Niall has got you through at least an hour of your work.
See you later, guys.
Cheers, guys.